Hello, and welcome to Springvale Seventh day Adventist Church. We're glad you could join us, and we hope you enjoy the following message.
Springvale Church. Amen. And bring my mama. Always know that I'm coming here. I get generally a text or a call from Natasha. She's such a faithful servant. She happened to ring me about 3 or 4 times this week because I kept saying, give me 5 minutes and I'll get back to you. And last night it rang again and my phone has Natasha from Springvale Church. She wanted the title of the sermon. So I'm cooking and I've gone, oh no. And I picked up the phone and I realised what I was making was now on my face. So I'm talking to Natasha, holding the phone like this while it's just dripping away. It was quite a sight, but it's great to come to a place where they prepare and they give you such a good welcome. Today's message is going to be familiar, or the story will be familiar to you, but I'm going to go really deep into it. One of the things I love about the Bible is its consistent relevance with our lives today. One of the things that I enjoy is history. So anyone who knows me, I love history, but I also love custom, understanding the custom of other cultures. My wife's a Kiwi. I don't know, are there any Kiwis in this church? Yeah, she's a Pakeha. But I go to New Zealand, and it's really interesting how the South Pacific Islander culture has influenced the whole country, from road signs to just how they imagine the world. And it's delightful to go there. For myself, my father's Greek and my mother's Irish. So who's here seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Has anyone ever seen that movie? Now, everyone else in the world thinks that movie is a comedy. All the Greeks think it's a documentary because it really is how it is. So we're going to go into the Bible today. And so if you could just open your Bibles, we're going to go into John chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. So we're going to go into John chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. And this will be a really familiar story. It was Jesus' first miracle. And here's the thing. With the Adventist church, we have debated so much whether it was wine or not. I've done a lot of kosher functions over the years. We used to work alongside the rabbis when the weddings and everything else was on. And this, as we go through it, is actually going to explain the miracle that happened here. So in verse 1, it says, on the 3rd day a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Woman, why do you involve me? Jesus replied, my hour has not yet come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. So they filled them with water to the brim. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first sign through which he revealed his glory. And his disciples believed him. And after he went down to Capernaum with his mother and brothers and his disciples, there they stayed for a few days. Now, how many of us who are here are familiar with this text? Like, I'm thinking of the first miracle that could be done. Who's ever thought, why would it be this? Am I the only one who's ever wondered why would he turn water into wine? And that was with me for years and years and years. And I've heard pastors trying to explain, was it alcoholic or non-alcoholic, or was it Sanitarium's first product way back in the distance? And none of it actually made sense until you start looking into history and culture. That's where we start to understand the purpose of this. And as we go through this message, I'm going to cover through the texts again so we have context. It says, on about the third day of the beginning of Jesus' public ministry, he gets invited to this wedding. Presumably, someone is related to Mary, his mother. Some believe that Mary was in fact the sister of the groom's mother. So there's a family connection. Who understands in Middle Eastern and European culture that they have really big families? Yeah. Like you come to a Greek wedding, I kid you not, everyone's a cousin 400th removed, but you're coming. But this was a lot closer. And if it is true, it explains why Mary was so deeply concerned about them saving face. Shame and embarrassment for not being able to provide for their son's wedding. So they have a village life. Everyone knows everyone. And if you couldn't provide in that wedding, there was great shame on your family. This was deeper. We need to understand that the ancient Middle Eastern tradition, there was a strong sense of reciprocity. Does anyone know what reciprocity means? What it means is I give you something, you give it back, but it's of equal value. So if you invited me along and said, okay, here's a $100 gift, I go, you beauty. In the future, I invite you along and you get a $100 gift back. Okay. Is that generous or is that legalistic? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Like, who has ever got a gift from someone that was expensive but there's not a close relationship? Or who has ever got a gift from someone that's small but it comes from their heart? This is why mothers can never ever throw out Happy Mother's Day greeting cards from when their son or daughter was 3 years old. Because the paper's worth nothing. What's on it is priceless. We got boxes of this stuff at home. So there was a cultural intensity that existed around weddings in those days. Before a marriage, a betrothal ceremony must take place. And this was a lot more than an engagement party. And this is where this whole story starts to focus down. At the conclusion of the betrothal period, which is negotiated by the parents, the marriage ceremony takes place. And as we go into this, I want to go into John 14, 2 to 4. So if you can open up your Bibles and go to John 14, verses 2 to 4. You're going to be familiar with this text. John 14, 2 to 4, and it says, "My Father's house has many rooms." Or if you've got the King James, what does it say? Many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you there to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I'm going. Does anyone know what this means? Is Jesus literally in heaven, like building you a mansion? What does this mean? Anyone got any idea? And that, it's great in a song. Every time I actually go to say that, I think of Elvis Presley singing this hymn. I'm going to explain to you what this actually means. And this is going to change radically how you understand this text and the story we're about to have. Back in the day, a bride came to live with a groom as normal. But this is what happened, is that there was a family homestead. So what would happen is that, let's say we owned a house and my son proposed to a girl. That'd be the proposal. He wouldn't see that girl until this next thing happened. He would do an extension on the family home, big enough to cater for him, his bride, and the children that are coming. And these homesteads were forever. They were going up or out. And so when Jesus is talking here where he's going to prepare a place for you or a mansion, he is speaking as a groom or a bridegroom. Think about that. Jesus is saying to us, I'm doing this for you, because he sees us as the one he wants to marry. Do you have any doubt the love that Christ has for us, for you? That's what this story means. And we come back into here. So when it says there was a contractual and solemn pledge the couple made to each other, and the betrothal ceremony was binding. So the ceremony was binding. The betrothal ceremony was a vow. And now the groom was in the process of doing what he was doing. At the conclusion of the betrothal period, which is negotiated by the parents, the marriage ceremony takes place. On the wedding night, the bridegroom and his mate would go from house to house, from her house, in an elaborate procession. So it was always done at night time. So what would happen is the groom would start at his place and be going along, and there was much joy. Has anyone been to a Jewish wedding before? It's not subtle. It is not subtle by any stretch. Go to a Greek wedding or an Italian wedding, it's exactly the same. And they would march down the streets, and his mates would be with him, and they would light lanterns and torches, not like torch where you flick it on. They were like fire torches. And it was like Moomba Parade. And they go all the way to the bride's house. And he would knock on the door, and there's this formal part, and then he would take her, and he would go back now to the new family home. And the whole village was involved. How does that sound? Is this something that's joyful or painful? Joyful, absolutely. And so they're going back. As he comes to the bride's door, the groom makes certain promises to the bride's father. When the bride's father gives her to the groom, they walk back in torchlight to pray to the groom's house, where the wedding banquet is taking place. The wedding festivities weren't done in a few hours. How long did normally the wedding festivities take? 7 days. I don't know how people could sit there for 7 days. Our reception, my wife and I, went for 6 hours. I kid you not, I smiled so much, my cheeks ached. Honestly, in the end, I wanted a banana to stick in here just to keep the thing going. And I kid you not, I was just achy cheeks. I've never had that before. And we were done. It was like 7 days. I don't know what they do. I don't know what board games they had in those days. But anyway, they did it. So we consider this. So sometimes in the middle of festivities, the wine ran out. Okay. So running out of beverages in the middle of a feast means you were too poor to provide for the wedding festivities. Now, who's ever had like a function at home or something or other where you have some people around? How embarrassing would it be to run out of food in the middle of the dinner you're giving? We just had my daughter's engagement party at our place. We got so much food. We were giving food away. And we've got like drinks all over the place that I don't know what we're going to do with, because I don't drink soft drinks. We've got tons of stuff. Coca-Cola shares went up. Yeah, we got everything. And so, yeah, for Christmas, yeah, very much so. So you can imagine what it'd be like running out of wine or food in the middle of everything. It'd just be embarrassment. So this will help you understand Mary's intensity and the significance of her request. This was more than shame on a generation. Understand this, that the groom's parents could have been sued by the father of the bride. Yeah, could have been sued. Because remember, a pledge was given. This was Jesus' very first miracle, and John tells us so. But Mary knew who he was. She knew what the angel told her before his birth, and she knew he was growing up and he was the Messiah. So when Mary went to Jesus, she went understanding the authority that he had. So she asked Jesus if he would supernaturally intervene and save the embarrassment and the scar that the family had shame. So this thing would go generationally. Like once you get that reputation, it was it forever. And so in chapter 1, in verse 1 it says, on the first day of the wedding took place in Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, they have no more wine. Jesus replied, woman, why do you involve me? That almost sounds like a rebuke, doesn't it? Not so. It's not a mark of disrespect, rather a term of endearment. In today's language, it's like saying madame. So he wasn't rebuking her. It was a term of endearment. And so rather than Mary taking this as a rebuke, she says, his mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. She has such confidence and trust, she knew Jesus wouldn't let her down. And in parts of Hebrews 13:5 it says, he will never leave you nor will forsake you. Okay, so this is Jesus' character. He understood the gravity of this situation. Verse 6 it says, nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding between 20 and 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water, so they filled them to the brim. So between 20 and 30 gallons, that's between 75 and 115 litres. Who's ever lifted like a 10-litre bucket of water? How the hang do you lift 115 litres of this stuff? I don't know. It's big. Yeah, get a trolley. And in verse 8 he said, then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. And so they did. Jesus turned the water into wine. And the master of the banquet tasted the water that turned into wine. He did not realise where it had come from, and though the servants did, then he called the bridegroom aside. And to the astonishment of the master of ceremonies, he'd never tasted anything so good. He goes to the groom and says this, everyone brings out the choice wine first, then the cheaper wine after. The guests have had too much to drink, but you have saved the best till now. So when you have a big function, like when you go to a function, you get your hors d'oeuvres and you get all the yummy stuff, and then you eat and eat and eat, and then people get full, and then their acuity in terms of how they taste things starts to change over time. This is true, because I did many, many functions. So one could assume that the groom was thankful that the day was saved and the reputation was saved. And indeed it was a miracle. But the deeper miracle, or a sign as John would call it, brought joy into the life that's full of fear. There's a sign that Jesus can bring joy to the life of the empty. It's a sign, however, far down the road you've gone, Jesus can pull you back. So the MC was absolutely blown away that the better stuff came second, because it's a reversal of the natural order of things. Does Jesus do anything without a reason? Everything's done for a reason. And as we go further into this, we will understand why. The plea of the people goes deeper than the need for a beverage. When the wine of life runs out, Jesus has the ability to restore joy. How many people do you meet along the way that lived a really full life, younger in their life, and as time goes on, it's not so good? I meet tons of people like that. Who's got Facebook? I've got friend requesting me that I went to secondary school with, and I recognise a name, I look at the picture, and I go, who's that? And some of these people, honestly, like some of the guys were like Mr. GQ, popular, did all the sports stuff. The girls were popular, really good looking. And I don't recognise who I'm looking at the moment. They've changed so much because they had a really full life. There are so many rich and famous who seem to have everything, but the wine of life has run out and they're empty, or what they have is bitter water. And this isn't just the case with non-believers. There are many Christians living a life of drudgery. Their worship and their Bible study has become boring. Now, I'll confess to this, and I'm speaking here as a sinner, and I know you guys may not relate, but there are times in my life where I've read the Bible and it's just words. I have no inspiration. My life is dry. When I sing hymns and worship songs, has anyone ever seen any Australian sporting team sing the national anthem that look like they actually know the words? Yeah, that's me. Sometimes when I was saying hymns, like, my mouth's moving, but nothing's coming out. That's because it's what's going on inside here. Drudgery and heaviness. And sometimes you have to fight to get back. Their faith is burdensome and they live in legalism with all its false demands. Their prayer life is dutiful instead of joyful and exciting. Who's ever been around legalistic Christians? What's it like? Sorry? Stepping on eggshells. They're so negative that if they walked into a dark room, they develop. There's just nothing there. And everything, whether it be food, whether it be anything you do, how you dress, everything just is never good enough. It's like they've been weaned on a pickle. Their Christian life has long lost its joy, and the essence of their wine has turned to water. For many of us, life's burdens and stresses and disappointments can turn our wine into water. Who's experienced great loss or great pain in their life? Has no one experienced that? I think we all have, haven't we, in one way or another? Yeah. I know I have. Sometimes it's been by my own hand. Sometimes it's just things happen. You've got no control over it. Just pain, absolutely. You see, Jesus can restore order and, importantly, restore nature. And here's the real miracle in this whole story. Jesus reversed the custom of the day. They usually kept inferior cheap wine towards the end of the feast. People's taste acuities diminish. But Jesus changed things around. I used to be a barman at the Southern Cross Hotel, which was a big 5-star hotel, which always amused the managers and my clientele because I didn't drink. So they never worried about me nicking anything. I think the hardest thing I ever got was lemon, lime and bitters. That's about it. And so one of the things I used to do, this was long before RSA came out, which is a government law which stands for responsible serving alcohol. I always felt a burden for my clients. And I didn't want them to do stupid things, even though they wanted to do stupid things. So what I used to do is change the dilution rate of what I was mixing up. So if they were drinking beers, they'd go heavy, and then I'd mix it heavy and light and move them over to light, and they'd never know it. And on one particular night, we had Melbourne Uni Commerce students. And honestly, these guys and girls were on a free-for-all. And I had these 4 guys at the bar, and they wanted to drink bourbon and Coke. And so I served it up, and bang, they've knocked it off. And they did it a couple times, and I told them to go away for a few minutes till we got glasses, because you've got to keep refreshing the glasses. Anyway, they came back, and they're drinking away, and I'm just serving as much as they want. And my boss came in, and he was a Yugoslav guy, and he always spoke like this. He called me Pita. He goes, Pita, what you doing? Because he can't say doing, it's doing. And I'd had this saucer, and I had the bourbon in the saucer. And what I was doing was putting the glasses upside down in the saucer, and I was putting in the ice and the Coke, and they're drinking it. Of course, they could taste the bourbon off the rim of the glass. They were drinking Coke. The amazing miracle here was these guys were drunk. And they were falling over each other and slurring their speech. I don't know what Coke put put in their bubbles that time, but they were gone. And what I recognised, it was amusing at the time because everyone was laughing. All the bar staff was watching what was going on, and it was humorous to watch. But I wanted to protect them from themselves. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And so some people are like that. They live life to the fullest, and they waste the best years of their life thinking they're having a good time. So in the story, the MC thought the groom reversed the natural order of things. He thought he kept the best for last. He assumed he was stupid. So this MC thought the groom was stupid. Let's consider this and how Satan does business. He serves the best first, and what do we have last? The worst. The young drinker enjoys the liquor in his early years of their lives, but he doesn't realise a time will come where it will bite you like a snake. An addiction can turn a good man or woman into a derelict. Think about that. How many druggos do you think started out as druggos? In my business, I've been on tons of trauma sites. Does anyone know what a trauma site is? Has anyone seen the show CSI before? Trauma site is generally where someone has died or been killed. It's never pleasant. And I've been in shooting galleries where people have used needles, some have passed away, or some others are in a mess. And I've looked into the faces of people, and all I think was they were just a baby once, innocent. Like, what's the name of your daughter? Niha. Look how gorgeous she is, how innocent. Everyone wants to kiss her cheeks. I want to kiss her cheeks. That's how they were. And then they said yes once to something, and they never escaped it. Illicit sex feels good in the beginning, but the results of unwanted pregnancy can lead people to having abortions. There's broken children, the contraction of AIDS or other diseases. Jesus reverses the natural order of Satan. The pleasure of sin may be enjoyed for a season, but then comes the wages of sin. Jesus works the opposite way. He reverses the world's natural order. He may allow you to enter the wilderness, but put your trust in him and he'll always take you to the promised land. Who has ever felt completely lost on their journey? Who's in this congregation? Has anyone discovered Jesus again after being away? You may bear a cross in your life, but Jesus is the author of resurrection. Sorrow may last the night, but joy comes in the morning. John 3:29 says this: the bride belongs to the bridegroom. The friend who attends the bridegroom waits and listens for him and is full of joys when he hears the bridegroom's voice. The joy is mine and it is now complete. When I was waiting for my wife to arrive, she wasn't my wife, she was still my fiancée. That's the natural order of things. And I hadn't seen the dress or anything. Anyway, the photographer who'd been taking photos of her arrived, and he had a Polaroid. Yes, there was once Polaroids, and he showed it to me. Wow, almost died. My wife's got beautiful green eyes, blonde hair, and this 100-watt smile. And honestly, she was beaming so hard in the photo, I needed like 300 plus block sunscreen. It was bad. And when I saw her come to walk up the aisle, it was just overwhelming. And that's what it's like Jesus is for us. Isaiah 55 verses 1 to 2. It says, "Come all you who are thirsty, come to the waters and you will have no money. Come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread and your labour on what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good, and you will delight in the richest of fare. Often God's miracles happen after obedience. Understand that. We are often waiting on miracles. But God's miracles often happen after obedience. If you're praying for a miracle in your life, has God been speaking to you about an area of your life? Is he asking you to fill the jars with water first? Trust. Trust. How hard is it to trust? It's trust. Does God want to heal and mend you? Who believes that? Does God want to heal and mend you? Jesus not only restores, he reverses nature. Amen.
Thanks, Peter. What a wonderful sermon. We're going to have our final hymn for today, hymn number 362, Sweet, Sweet Spirit, 632.
Thank you for joining us. For more information on upcoming events and church services, please visit our website at springvale-adventist.org.au.